Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's album review. Today we are reviewing Saathiya, which is a soundtrack from a Hindi film. I chose the album, so I will go ahead and give you my views on it. So I think overall, this album didn't make much of an impression on me. It's not to say that I hated it. There's certainly been albums we listened to previously that I've disliked more. But it just didn't really do enough for me to say that I liked it in any shape or form, really. So yeah, overall, didn't really like it. But like I say, there wasn't too much to hate about it as well. Now, it was a compilation, not compilation, it was a soundtrack album. So it does mean that obviously we were listening to different artists every time. So that meant we did have some not flexibility, but some variation in the types of songs we listen to, which I think is always a good thing. So some of the songs I would say kind of had that sort of stereotype that I would maybe apply to sort of Indian or Hindi music more specifically. But I'd say most of the songs probably didn't fit that stereotype, and they surprised me a little bit. Now there is one song on here that I think might be Brett's favorite, but we'll see. I'll explain why, obviously, once we get to that particular song. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting to listen to. It's always interesting when you're listening to an album from another culture that you're not familiar with. But yeah, still overall, just didn't really do it for me, to be honest. Brett, over to you.
Yeah, again, I can echo a lot of what you said there. Funny enough, I've also written down next to one of the songs. My exact lines here. I bet this is Lee's favorite on the album. So you kind of done the same. Whether it's the same track, we'll wait and see. Yeah, we spoke about. It's always hard with soundtracks as well because they are music that goes with the movie. Now, whether we know the movie would have made a difference, I don't know. Also got the language barrier, which I've also talked about before, which is sometimes difficult. And it is, I know genre is not the right word, as you said as well, but I'm going to use the word genre for now. It is that type of genre that we're not familiar with and not used to. So got nothing to really compare it to as well. Exactly what you said. Definitely not one of the worst, definitely not one of the best. Didn't leave too much of a lasting impression, but I did like how you did have some very stereotypical, cliche Bollywood style music, and then also a couple of real surprises as well. So that's all what I've got to say on the album. I know when we talk through this, we're not going to go a lot into about we're just going to be talking about more about the songs, but I listened to it all the way through first. And then I found a website called Bollynook, NOOK.com, which was able to give the translations of songs and actually clips of the songs from the movie, of a video of it as well, to put some more content in it. So as we're going through it, because I don't think there's probably a lot I can always say about the songs, at least I might give the English translation and maybe what it sort of represents in the movie. But the soundtrack itself, when I did some research, did actually do quite well. It got more awards for the soundtrack rather than for the movie. And I can probably get that as well. And I say it's a good mix of sort of traditional and new age. And what I also want to mention as well, that this is from, what was it, 2002? So it is almost 20 years old as well, which probably should take into consideration there as well.
Yeah, okay, good. So I know, Brett, you're always quite good at the kind of background information, giving us some information about more, the songs or translations and stuff. So that's good. So yeah, going on to each song. The first one is called Saathiya, which is the name of the movie itself. So as I always say, the first song's always, first impressions and all that. So very important, the first song, I think. So for me, I've noted down here, it's a slow song. Felt like a love song. Now I'm sure Brett's going to tell us more about that shortly with the translation. Quite a lot of elements involved in the song. Quite a bit going on in different parts to it. It's a long song, as most of these songs were, because there were only 9 tracks, but most of them were quite long. So yeah, it was almost 6 minutes in length. I just felt it didn't really grab my attention, and I think this is going to be quite a common theme with this album. Just average. There wasn't really anything to hate about it or dislike even, but just didn't really do much for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the confident thing, as you said, there are quite long songs, and like I said, it's very difficult when you are not familiar with the genre or not overly keen on the genre. It can go on a little bit. So yeah, when I first listened to it, I found it, because again, I probably had a very cliche Bollywood style type music for I was going to listen to. When it first came on, it did feel quite modern. And it was nice. It was just a nice song, but yeah, it did go on a little bit. So the translation for this is for My Beloved. So this whole story is sort of a love story. I'll probably go a little bit about it as we go through certain songs and stuff, but it is a love story, which I think probably most Bollywood movies generally are. And if you were interested, the UK title of this movie, because this is the title song, is actually Companion. So even though the actual translation is My Beloved, the UK title for this movie was Companion. But just a nice middle of the road song, really.
Yeah. Okay. Second song was Chalka Chalakure. So I thought it had an interesting, catchy start. It felt very Indian. So this is kind of maybe what I was expecting when I think of, Hindi music, this sort of stuff. It had that real sort of Indian feel to it, which I like. I thought the woman's singing, her part was quite boring. Never really kind of grabbed my attention. I thought the instrumental was quite interesting, but I just thought the singing part let the song down in a way. I don't know. I just find it as well, like in a good way, when you listen to kind of, I don't know, like this sort of music, it's kind of quite magical in a way, like India's quite a mysterious place, it's a huge country, and I don't know, sort of like rich culture, so many people, and so I like that aspect of it. But as for the song itself, for me, yeah, the singing didn't really do it for me here.
Yeah, again, sort of getting the fifth up here, very Bollywood, very Indian, very Bollywood, what I thought the whole album would be like. And I said, we'll see that there is a mixture between those sort of two from there. So the translation for this is, it's spilled, the water from the pitcher has overflowed. Because it mentions a word called kalsi, which is a type of Indian pitcher. And yeah, it's overflowing. So this is sort of, the idea of the movie is it's a love story, but it does a lot of flashbacks. So you kind of see it at the end, and then it's sort of showing the story of how these two kind of met, get married, and it does have a Romeo Juliet kind of feel to where the different class systems, so different families are not keen on the but when you watch the clip, again, it's very Bollywood, very all bright colours, so when seeing a lot of things going on. So it works better when you see with the movie, but as a song, yeah, just all right sort of song, really.
Okay. Third song was called I Udi. So this was quite interesting. I felt with this one, and obviously the album was from what you said, I think 2002, but this felt a bit old school, older than that, almost an 80s feel kind of going on, or maybe early 90s. I thought it was repetitive in terms they kept singing that Aya Udi Udi bit, which was sung quite softly. I've noted down here. Didn't sound typically Indian to me, or Hindi, I suppose it's better to say. Parts of the song even sounded French. The way it was quite softly sung, I think. I think, put it like this, if I didn't know I was listening to Hindi music, I wouldn't have then said, oh, this must be Hindi or some kind of Indian music. It just didn't seem very typical to me. But as for the song itself, in general, I still thought it was pretty average, like most of them here. Nothing to hate about it, but nothing to really like about it as well. But quite an interesting song, I thought.
Yeah, again, quite like this one. Very much as said there. So one key point to put here is it said very Eurovision to me. It's also got that sort of European feel to it as well. The translation is "It Flew Away." I found it was quite nice, sort of modern, sort of like guitar. I know modern as in terms of like guitar, not like maybe traditional Indian instruments. And again, because it went on a bit, I kind of at first enjoyed the woman's voice, and then it got a bit repetitive. Then the guys were singing, and after, oh, okay, that's quite nice. But then that got, but I now quite enjoyed. So every time the different genders were singing, I was enjoying them more because I was getting bored of it because it just sort of went on. But yeah, unusual, nice. Couldn't really hate it. Just nice, calm, relaxing music.
Okay. So on that topic there of relaxing, calm, relaxing music, that's exactly what I've written down for the next song. Chapka, calm, relaxing, a bit boring, average, over 6 minutes long. That's all I have for that. So yeah, just nice, relaxing, but just not really anything happening, you know, and just quite a bit long, boring.
Yeah. Again, I can't really add more to that. Really, so we'll put there. Checking my notes there. Yeah, just went a little bit too long. Again, just sort of a nice, relaxing song. So the translation for this is secretively. So again, the plot is that families didn't really like each other, so they did actually get married in secret. So again, it does a little flashback with that, really. And the lyrics sort of quite about that they just want to make sure that it's just about their friends and family, close ones who knew and were happy about what they were doing. So I think the bigger picture, a lot of people weren't too happy with it, but the closest, nearest and dearest were happy.
Okay. Next one was O Hamdam Soniore. This was an interesting one. I put not typically Indian sounding. To me, it sounded like K-pop. That was the closest thing I could find. It had a sort of K-pop feel to it. Had an early 90s background kind of feel going on. A little bit of English rap, English language rap, I think I heard in there. Yeah, it was like a kind of boy band. This was very different to the previous songs that we'd listened to. And this is the one that I thought that you might like the best.
Yeah, so this was the one I liked the best. And I said, that's what I've written down here. I bet this is the one that Lee really likes the best as well. Everything you said there, sort of like a 90s and 80s boy band feel to it. I put down Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, funny enough. I got a feel from that there. And then I was already writing thinking, oh, Lee probably likes this one. And then the rap bit came on. I was like, oh, that probably sealed it for Lee with this one here as well. Very unusual, wasn't expecting it. Yeah, did really enjoy it. Would consider it, put it on my download list. So the translation is oh particular, listen to this. And it's funny because when you try and see the clip in the movie, it's the first song in the movie, but it's where the main lead guy, he's on his motorbike, just riding along and the credits are showing, and he's just listening to this song, not this exact version, sort of quite about in his headphones, for only maybe about a minute, where he comes to a crash scene, which I'll talk about as well. He just takes his headphones off and the music stops, and that's it really. So what I'm saying is that if you were to listen to think, oh, I really want to see the movie because I quite like the song,
Yeah,
it's a bit of a false interpretation.
Yeah.
It's literally at the start of him listening to this song on headphones.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would say this was the best song on the album. So yeah, you're right with that. I wasn't considering putting it onto my playlist. And obviously, I will listen to these songs again when we do the rank at the end. So yeah, I may yet reconsider. But yeah, for me, best song on the album, but still not really into it too much. But yeah, definitely an interesting one there. So the next one, Mere Ya Milade. Put down sounds like tribal music. Can you imagine kind of sitting around in a circle with a fire? but just boring, really. Just didn't really like this one too much. But again, there wasn't really anything to hate about it. Just boring.
Yeah, so the translation for this one was is "Meet Me," and yeah, just I could sense. And I said I listened to the song before I then looked more into him and stuff, and I could sense it was meant to have quite a bit of a meaning to it. And this is when I was realizing, you got to remember, this is actually a soundtrack. It's meant to be for a movie, I suppose. So I did get a good vibe from it, but I did find boring. And I think what I realized is probably it has to be fitting with the movie. When I did see a clip, it didn't seem like that either, to be fair. But again, it was hard to really hate it, but also didn't love it. But just sort of goes with part of the album, really.
Okay. Next up, we had Milaiki. Again, this was a very Indian sounding song, very much like the second track that we listened to, Chalka Chalakure. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. The same background sound, pretty much the whole song. Again, just average. Nothing really grabbed my attention, to be honest.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely more traditional sounding, very cliche, classic Bollywood style. So again, translation for this one is "After Meeting His Eyes." Now, I think this is meant to be. It's not very clear. I wasn't very sure. I think this is actually when the daughter's mother is meeting the boyfriend or husband, and it's actually her talking about getting to know him and seeing if he's a good person. Or not really. So I don't know if it's a case of maybe where the sort of more traditional songs are more being done sung by the older generation, and then the newer, modern sounding ones by the younger generation. I don't know if that's definitely the case, but that's sort of the feeling I'm getting from it.
Okay. Next up, we had Mangalyam. This was an interesting one because it was, well, as we'd said, all the songs on here have generally been quite long. This one was very short. I believe it was under 2 minutes long. And the song itself I thought was really interesting. It sounded like 80s pop, Phil Collins, not bad, but it was just very short. If it had gone on for a bit longer, then it might have made more of an impression on me, but it's a little bit too short. But I guess there's a reason for it being short to do with this, the maybe the movie itself. I don't know, but yeah, it was an interesting one.
Yeah, so it's really interesting you put Phil Collins. I put this could be Sting or Genesis. So very similar on those sides. Again, very, very short. And it's saying it would be nicer to have a longer version of this one. And you said that it's weird because in the movie, some of these songs are generally not exactly as they are in the movie. So even like the long ones generally actually don't seem that long from the movie clips either. So it doesn't quite all fit there. It's almost like they have tried to make the soundtrack as listenable as possible. And the translation for this one is auspicious, if I'm saying that correctly, which I think is meant to be another word for favourable.
Okay.
But yeah, shame this one wasn't. Shame some of the longer ones were short, and this one maybe was a bit longer.
Yeah. So moving on to the last track, Chori Pe Chori. Now this one, there was a bit of an expectation here because we did already know that this was going to involve some rapping because we'd seen it on the Wikipedia page. So I was kind of had higher expectations for this one. Unfortunately, didn't live up to the expectations for me. Yeah, there was rapping by a man in English and in Hindi. We had the woman singing in Hindi. There was almost felt like Brazilian samba going on in parts. I felt the song was quite cheesy, but just pretty low quality, pretty rubbish to be honest. Didn't really like it. Again, I mean, with this one, because I knew there was going to be some rapping in there involved, I kind of had my hopes up a bit higher, so that kind of went against it, I guess. But yeah, I didn't really like this one. It's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I said it felt like I said I was trying to compare it to the track number 5 that we both really liked, and it just didn't live up to that one there as well. But again, definitely had sort of the modern feel to it. it's funny you should say sort of the summer party. So when you watch the video clip from the movie, yeah, it almost does have a Brazilian samba, the sort of having a party on the beach kind of feel to it. And if you really want to get a feel of what the early noughties were like, then watch that. It does feel like it could be sort of the early noughties. The translation for this one, well, with the translation, I've got two here. They both mean the same. So it's either theft after theft or stealing after stealing, because I didn't have the actual translation of the title, so I had to compare it to the lyrics that came up on the song. And one verse, it has it as theft after theft, another one, stealing after stealing, which effectively is the same thing anyway. Because I think this is why some of the family didn't like the main singer, maybe had a bit of a shady sort of background. But to some of the movie, the plot is effectively they got married in secret. No one's really sure on the wedding. People were having doubts. I think she had doubts. She was actually in a car accident. So that's how it starts. There's a car accident that she's in. She ends up not remembering stuff. So there's all these flashbacks of really how they met, all that kind of stuff. And in the end, spoiler alert, she does, I think, wake up from it, and so they do love each other and live happily ever after. Again, I believe that's from what I can make out from looking on bodynook.com and get an idea of it. So if anyone's watched this and it's wrong, please feel free to let us know. But as I said, I don't want to go too much into that. It's more about listening to the music and what the music to us represents.
Okay. So, yeah, to sum up, obviously, yeah, it is a soundtrack. Neither of us have seen the film. So that, I guess, goes against it in terms of makes it a bit more difficult to really like it. I don't know. But yeah, overall for me, I kind of enjoyed listening to it in a way, even though I didn't particularly like it, if that makes sense. Just it was something a bit different. It was interesting. Like I say, always interesting when you listen to kind of music from a different culture. There were certainly a few interesting tracks on there that I wasn't expecting. But nothing that really, blew me away or anything like that. On the whole, it was a little bit boring, I guess. Most of the songs were a little bit too long for me. But yeah, I mean, it was okay, pretty average. Yeah, what would you say?
Yeah, sort of echo exactly the same sort of things there. I think the good thing why we do this is like, would I ever listen to this album normally? No. Am I glad I've listened to it? Yeah, I'm taking something from it. It'd be interesting to know if this is maybe a good introduction to this genre of music. Because I say it's got the mixture of sort of modern, traditional, it seems. So there's a couple of surprises, nice songs from that. So I think in my classic way, would I want to quickly listen to it again? Probably not, but I am glad I listened to it, and it's definitely not the worst.
Okay, so that sums up our review today. Join us on Wednesday for the next album pick, which will be done by Brett. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Goodbye.